What's going on, guys and gals? My name's Demon, as many of you know. Today we're going to be looking at a gold farm specifically for transmog, being Maraudon. Now Maraudon drops a lot of greens. It's another dungeon that I really think you need to focus on if you're just getting into the transmog market, as it'll help you fill out your auction house. So we're going to go over the route, the notable items, the notable sets, and maybe a little bit more info I haven't decided upon yet. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get to it. The simplest way to get to Maraudon if you're a druid will be to use your Dreamwalk ability. This will allow you to take the portal to Feralis, which is located directly northwest of where you teleport into the Emerald Dreamway. Once you've taken the portal to Feralis, you will fly directly northwest towards Desolace. Once you're in Desolace and nearing the mountains, you'll see the entryway to the cave that contains the instance portal to Maraudon. Keep in mind that there are 3 different instance portals for Maraudon, and I will show you the route to the entrance that I always begin at. You will want to be sure to follow the path I am in the footage, and not take the left or the center routes at the split at the bottom of the ramp, but take the one with the red crystals. Once you have, you will follow this path until you come to another split in the cave. Take the ramp to the right and follow the path until you reach the entrance to Maraudon. Now that we're in the instance, you can see that I have provided a map of the dungeon in the upper right hand corner. The green line indicated on the map is the route which you will follow if you want to aim for a 6-minute runtime per lap. There are a few things that I will need to point out throughout the run, as it will make it drastically easier for you to do the instance. You can see that I just used Soothe to aggro a mob that was far away. That way I don't have to stray from my path. When dealing with these constrictors, if you get rooted, you can change from cat form into normal form and back to break the root. You will want to be sure, as you're running through the dungeon, when you come across these slimes, you kill them and loot them as you go. These mobs are extremely slow, and if you're attempting to pull the entire dungeon in one go, they will take a long time to reach the end. Be sure you're always using your movement speed buff while running through the dungeon, as it helps you hit the 6-minute mark. With this constrictor, you can either use Soothe to aggro it, or do as I did and jump over the pool. With the grubs here and in the next room, you can simply walk through the group and it will aggro all of them, saving you the need to use Soothe or to pause and wait for the second that it takes for them to aggro. We're not going to aggro the boss in the next room, as it takes us a little bit out of the way, and even using Soothe can still cause us to move out of an optimal path to hit our 6-minute timer mark. As I stated before, you can pull all the mobs in the dungeon to the very end and then burn them down there, but I usually kill the packs in 2 different places within the dungeon. Once near the middle of the dungeon, which is at Poison Falls, which has the pathway to the 3rd entrance to Maraudon, and once at the very end of the dungeon. After Poison Falls, you can see that I have annotated on the map in the upper right hand corner a few gray dots. If you run Maraudon for the first time and find that you are running it faster than the 6-minute timer mark, you can take the time to run down the ramp and kill the slimes and constrictors located here. When doing this, you will eventually figure out how many of these mobs to kill in order to round your runtime out at 6 minutes. As I said before, be sure that when coming across the slimes that you kill and loot them as you go, or they'll be holding you up at the very end of the dungeon. You can see that I walk over both packs of the imps and satyrs to aggro them, but if you have Soothe up, you can simply use Soothe on the imp in the 2nd pack, and it will aggro all of the group. If you've been paying attention, you can see that this run, I've not killed the pack that I've aggroed yet. And this is because they've not gotten in range at this point to root me. So I've just continued running throughout the dungeon and aggroing as many mobs as I possibly can. But in this next area, you'll see there's a room that contains 6 satyrs, and the pack ends up catching up to me, so I burn them down here, loot, and continue on my way. I have forgotten to mention, if you're an herbalist, many of these mobs can be herbed for vanilla content herbs, which depending on your server may sell well. You need to make sure that you're always checking your auction house to ensure that taking the time to herb the mobs is worth the potential gold that you may gain. After the room with the 6 satyrs, there's a small ledge you want to be sure that you don't jump down, as you will be losing out on about 15 or so mobs. But if you have Soothe up, you can see that there is a Trent just at the bottom, and it's just close enough to hit with Soothe without having to jump down, and this will cause it to aggro to you and aggro all the mobs along its path to you. At this point, you'll simply continue following the path on the map until you reach the end of the dungeon. Once at the end, you'll kill all the mobs that you have aggroed, loot, exit the dungeon, reset, and run it again in the opposite direction, essentially doing the same thing that you did running it the first time, only backwards. Now that we've finished going over the route, we're going to go over some of the sets that drop within Maraudon. Maraudon does not have any dungeon specific blues that I could find, so we will not be discussing them. However, just as in Dire Maul, we have the Ember Silk, the Ghostwalker, the Stonecloth, and the Trickster set that drop here. We also have the Watchers set, the Wicked Chain set, and the Wolf Riders sets. As usual, be sure that you're always checking your auction house to make sure that these sets are worth farming. If they're not worth farming, you don't need to put the time and effort into doing so. Taking into consideration that Maraudon's loot table is well over 300 potential item drops, and that the average run nets roughly 22 to 30,000 looted item value worth of items, I'd say that a range of 200 to 300,000 in looted item value is a reasonable range for the worth of the items in this dungeon after 10 runs. Keep in mind that your realm may sell items for more or less depending upon your server's market. Now that we've covered the route, the sets, and the potential looted item value, I would like to thank you all for watching, for all your recommendations in the last video, and feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification icon and get notified when I upload more guides. With that, I love you all are amazing, and happy gold making.